Set it right there for a moment. Good evening, everybody. We're so glad to see so many hearty souls out on a crazy cold night like this. On behalf of the Allison Toby Smart Memorial Fund and the Kenilworth Union Adult Education Committee, we welcome you to Kenilworth Union. We thank you all for coming on this balmy, beautiful night when you'd probably rather be walking on the beach or in the backyard having a barbecue or something like that. But so thank you for coming. Thank you to John for his courage in telling the story of hope that I think is going to really have an impact on each and every one of you. And I also want to say thank you to Sue Smart, who's sitting here in the second row, who 40 years ago kind of tore the lid off of these mental health challenges at a time when nobody talked about it in creating the Allison Toby Smart Memorial Fund. So thank you all. A little bit of housekeeping. Cell phones off, please. Hold your questions. You all should have note cards. So if you have questions that come up, write them down on the note card, and about 40 or 45 minutes in, we'll go around and collect those note cards and give them to John, and he can address them individually. Or there will be opportunity afterwards to talk to John one-on-one in the Culbertson room right back through these doors right here. There's also an evaluation questionnaire hopefully everybody received. So we'd love any feedback you have on the event tonight, as well as other types of events you would be interested in hearing about. Afterwards, in that Culbertson room, there's an opportunity if you want to get a copy of his book, which I read and is honestly amazing. I mean, I was really dumbfounded. I didn't expect it to be nearly as good. I'm sorry, I didn't give you credit, but he went to Northwestern. Give him a chance. But it was really well written, and not too self-indulgent. And I teared up a lot at the heart-wrenching parts, but especially at the hope-building parts. So it's really a great, wonderful story. So John Troutwine, who you'll hear tonight, he was a really good baseball player. Okay, I mean, we're not talking high school varsity. We're not talking college D1. We're not talking made it to the minors. He made it to the show. He was in the big leagues. Okay, so that makes him probably among the top 500, 600 ball players, in the country. He was really, really good at it. And after hanging up his spikes, he focused on something else really important, which was being a good dad. And he was a really, really good dad. He took the job seriously of raising, smart, passionate, intelligent, caring kids, and did it through experience and practice as well as what he preached. He was really, really good at it. So, and I think we all feel like we do those things, and we do those things right as best we can. But when his very well-liked and successful and compassionate son took his own life at age 15 and kind of shocked everyone with this action, he recognized that maybe he had some blind spots, and maybe there are some things that, while he thought he was doing everything right, maybe there were some things that he didn't do as well as he could. Maybe that positive, optimistic, we can handle anything attitude that he espoused, maybe wasn't always the right thing. Maybe a middle-aged dad just simply can't understand what a teenage boy is going through in today's day and age, and it's not easy to accept that. He found that maybe it's okay to not have all the answers. I think those are things that probably all of us can relate to and maybe don't always do right. He learned a lot in the process of grieving and overcoming the challenges associated with losing his son. And he really took those learnings and made them into a positive. He created his foundation, the Will to Live Foundation, built around the notion of life teammates. And you'll hear a lot about life teammates today. And it's really about teens helping teens, okay? Back to the notion of maybe adults can't really relate sometimes, but teens helping teens and adults helping adults, and having your teammates and having those people around you. He's taken the story on the road, over 500 presentations by now, including one last night, to over 50 of our high schoolers, and they loved it. It was really an engaged audience who appreciated his message. So ultimately, all of the presentations he's done have kind of created this virtuous, self-perpetuating cycle of hope and love, of people being there for each other, and then them teaching that as they go on in their life. So while he's won a lot of great awards from George W. Bush and Northwestern and other organizations, and has a lot of things on his resume, I'm very comfortable at this point saying he's become a better dad than he was a baseball player. And I think you're going to be impressed with the way he can share some of his learnings and perspective with you today. So with that, John, the Hall of Fame dad.
I think Spider's going to be my agent. Thank you very much, and thank you all for coming tonight. And I'm very excited to be here, and I hope you don't mind me using the microphone. This is my third night in a row of giving a presentation like this, so I'm getting old and my vocal cords are struggling a bit. But I'm really, whenever I get asked to make these presentations, the whole day is just brighter. What I'm going to take you through today is like my own therapy. And I woke up this morning knowing I was going to give this presentation, but I also was still reeling from the presentation that I gave last night to your kids, to 55 high school students who sat right here in this room for 42 minutes and never moved, didn't pick up their phones. Actually, they couldn't pick up their phones because my friend Johnny P. made them put them in a bowl. But they were engaged. They appreciated what they heard. And what you guys are going to hear tonight is the same thing, maybe just from a slightly different angle. The slides that you're going to see are the exact same thing that I showed the kids. And my goal tonight is the same as it was with the kids yesterday. I want all of you, before you go to bed tonight, to maybe just look at yourselves in the mirror slightly different. And hopefully you think about the power that you have to improve the relationships in your life. And the power that you have to truly deliver hope to those so much to you. And maybe recognize the fact that there are people out there who can deliver hope to you. So I'm going to take you on this journey that began really since day one, but I'm going to introduce you to my family. So we're in Atlanta. My lovely wife, Susie. We have 4 children, Will, Tommy, Michael, and Holland. We've been there for almost 30 years here. I grew up in Barrington, Illinois, went to Barrington High School, went on to Northwestern University where I played baseball there, and was lucky enough to, after I graduated, I signed with the Montreal Expos. That shows you how old I am. They don't exist anymore. And I spent 7 years in pro ball, and the first 4 were with the Expos organization, and the last 3 were with the Red Sox. And I did get to spend one wonderful year in the big leagues with the Boston Red Sox. But I will say, despite what Spider said, if you Google me, you will be disappointed. I wasn't that good. But you know what? I had a ton of teammates. And I had teammates in a really intense situation for a long, long time, from from Division I baseball at Northwestern through all the minor leagues and through the big leagues and winter ball. These were intense situations. And the bonds that I formed with these teammates were deep and they were awesome. But I never realized just the power that these teammates would have in my life some 40 years later. Never occurred to me back then. I was always a good teammate, but I never really realized just how important these guys were in my life. And if you look at the picture there on the far left, that's my wife Susie. She's the real athlete in the family. She played lacrosse and field hockey at the University of Virginia. So she too had a lot of teammates. Again, in that more intense situation. And my kids, our kids, heard every teammate cliche that you could ever think of growing up. Good teams win and great teams love each other, and they heard it all. And we had a happy and a loving and a fun home. Susie is nuts about me. What, Julie? And I'm nuts about her. We have a loving home. We have a wonderful manager. I'm the chief customer officer of a IT services company in Atlanta. We have a good thing going. If you ask the people in our neighborhood about the Trout wines, they would tell you, oh yeah, that's a good thing the Trouts have. They're living the dream. Well, all of a sudden the dream ended. And it came to a crashing halt just over 15 years ago, when our oldest son, our beautiful boy, Bill, who was big and strong and handsome and healthy and successful in all walks of life, took his life. We had no idea he was struggling in any way, shape, or form. He was the leader of his friends. He was the consultant of his friends. He was the lead singer in a band. He played at his high school graduation just 4 months prior. He would always win the teammate award for his lacrosse team. His brothers and his sister worshiped him. And none of us knew he was struggling in any way, shape, or form. And the night before he died, we all went to dinner at a pizza place in Johns Creek. And I said, Will, we're all going to dinner. Come on, it's Thursday night, let's go. And he goes, oh, Dad, I have a big test tomorrow. I said, okay. He goes, well, I have note cards. Will you test me? I said, sure. So we went to dinner, and we sat at Verrazano's, and we had pizza, and I'm testing him on his geography test. And he knew every answer. I said, wow, Will, you know your stuff tonight. He goes, yeah, Dad, I'm going to ace this one. He studied really hard for a test he never took. And during that dinner, he said to me, Dad, so this Saturday, can we get up early and go to the Department of Transportation, because I'm reffing at the Park District. I'm reffing the kids' lacrosse at noon, but if the DOT opens at 9 o'clock, and I can get my driver's permit. He took his life the day before he was going to get his driver's permit. Mom, am I getting my braces off this Tuesday or the following Tuesday? 4 years of braces coming off Tuesday. Dad, on Halloween, which is in 2 weeks, my band is going to play this song. It's going to play this song list. It's going to be in our cul-de-sac. It's going to be great, Dad. If anybody would have told me that he was struggling in any way, shape, or form, I would have told you were nuts. If anybody would have told me that my son had a mental illness or depression, not only would I have told you were nuts, I would have been offended. I would have been frustrated. He's a Trout wine. He's fine. Back off. 3 hours before he took his life, I said goodnight to him. He wanted to send his homework to his buddy, and I couldn't get it to work on his computer. And he said, Dad, don't worry about it. I'm going to see him in homeroom tomorrow morning. I said, all right, Will, you better go to bed. I said, love you, man. He said, love you, man. And we fist bumped, and I watched him go up the steps. And that was the last interaction I had with him. Uneducated, unaware. That's what I was. That's what his friends were. That's what his mother was. That's what his family was. We were uneducated about mental illness. We were uneducated about depression. We didn't know that it was maskable. We didn't know that it could be completely hidden. We didn't know that 1 in 5 of us in this room suffer from it. We didn't know that it was treatable and beatable and common, and yes, it's often curable. We knew nothing of it. We just thought we had this wonderful, well-to-do, happy family. We didn't know that every 13 minutes someone in America takes their life. We didn't know that every 2 hours a teenager takes their life. We didn't know that 1 in 10 of the college students that I saw at Northwestern today have already thought about how they're going to do it. Nobody talks about it. Or very few people talk about it. So you talked about it. And I'm so impressed with that. This stigma around mental illness, the stigma around anything with the word mental in front is devastating. And I didn't know, and I was uneducated, and people came out of the woodwork talking about their friends and their roommates and their classmates and all of this depression and mental illness and suicide that was in their lives. And I'm like, I've known you for 10 years, and your brother took his life, and you never told me. Oh, we don't talk about it. Why didn't anybody talk about it? Why didn't Will talk about it? How can I get other people to talk about it? I didn't know what to do. I was so devastated how a kid living in my home could lose the will to live. I couldn't get to grips with it. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I had to find some way to get these kids to talk, because Will had 3 siblings. And I want to make sure that they would say, I'm not okay. Will didn't say, I'm not okay. So I stood up there at the altar like this and gave a eulogy 3 days later. And the whole left-hand side of the church was Will's lacrosse teammates in their jerseys, crying, big, strong, strapping boys. They just lifted with him the night before. They couldn't believe that this had happened. And I was talking to them about how Will was the type of kid that truly rejoiced in the success of his friends, which is a really interesting trait and a really almost a rare trait for someone that age. I'm a pretty competitive guy and always was. I was the pitcher. I want the ball. Give me the ball. I need to have the ball. Will didn't need to have the ball. Will was happy to pass the ball. And I told this to his friends. I said, he would want you guys to be there for each other because he loved you. He would want you to love each other. And while I was talking, I started to pick out my friends in the audience from Barrington High School, from Barrington Middle School, from Northwestern. Friends had come from all over the country to be there for me. And I realized giving that eulogy, and God works in some incredibly mysterious ways. I'm giving a eulogy and I'm thinking, I know what I'm going to do. Because I'm looking at my life friends. I'm looking at these guys that I was in the trenches with. I'm looking at these guys that I learned about life with. There's a couple of them right back there. I see you, Mitch. I see you, Sally Lou. Life friends, life teammates. And I met them when I was Will's age, when I was a teenager, when I was a young adult. And I told these kids last night, you guys have already met some of the greatest friends you're ever going to have. Rejoice in that. Understand that. And I thought, oh, if Will would have known that, and if Will and his friends would have known that life is really hard and it's okay to not be okay, and that 1 in 5 of us are struggling, that maybe they would have approached certain things slightly differently, and maybe that conversation would have been okay, and maybe a culture could have been created in his world where it was okay to not be okay. I'm going to form a foundation that gets kids to recognize the love and the hope and the understanding that they have sitting next to them in the dugout and next to them in the sidelines and next to them in the youth group and next to them in the class, in the church, whatever. Who better understands what it's like to be a senior at New Trier High School today than another senior at New Trier High School today? I was looking at Will's life through 1980 Barrington High School eyes. And I just realized that true understanding could never really happen with me and Will that way. But his friends understood him. The obstacles that they faced were very similar to the obstacles that he faced. And I'm going to create this foundation, and they're going to recognize their life teammates. And like, who are your life teammates, and do they know? Today would be a good day to tell them. And it started to take off, and this concept of life teammates was a good one. It was a positive one. Be there for each other. Tell each other that you love each other, because then you might be able to create this atmosphere where you're strong enough to say, I'm not okay. And as I started to talk more and more about life teammates, and more people were asking me to speak, I started to think about those kids that feel they don't have life teammates, or perhaps those kids like Will during that time where he felt he was on a team of one. He was the captain of his lacrosse team. He was the leader, but he didn't tell anybody. He was on a team of one. And I remember thinking and talking to these kids, a real life teammate goes and finds and looks for that person who's struggling and invites him on his team or her team. Because life is hard. And sometimes you need a friend to get you through it. And this concept just picked up, and we now have a Life Teammate Day on October 14th, which is the day, it represents the last day that Will was alive. He died on the 15th. October 14th is National Life Teammates Day, created by this tiny little foundation out of Atlanta and a bunch of life teammates. Because this world, this society needs this power of understanding and delivering hope to each other in a crazy, crazy, difficult time. And as I spent more time with these kids and talking about who are your life teammates and do they know, I got to really look at their day in the life. And last night, I showed this slide that you see right now. This was the most important slide I showed those high school kids last night. I said, you guys have it hard, don't you? You have it harder than I did when I was your age. And I told them, I said, I'm going to say this tomorrow night to your parents, and I'm going to get a couple looks from dads. I'm going to go, hold on. I walked uphill in the snow, both ways, no socks, and you're telling me that my kid has it harder than me, and he got his first car at age 16. I was 21 when, yeah, John, I don't know, man. I said, no, that's a good point. That's a good point, Pop. What else you got? What else you got? And then I'll say, did you have that? And he'll say, no. And I say, I just won. I just won the argument. What comes with that, what comes with cell phones, what comes with social media, what comes with the Internet of Things is unlike anything that we had to go through when we were their age. I never once thought about that. Isn't this great, Will? Isn't this awesome, Will? Look at these wonderful churches. Look at these wonderful schools. Look at these fields you get to play on. Look at all these awesome opportunities. Will, you're on a travel team. You're going to go to Charlotte for a weekend and you're only 12. Isn't this great, Will? I didn't get to travel until I was a senior in high school. Isn't this great? Isn't this awesome? Isn't this wonderful? And I thought I was going to win the Father of the Year award because I was so positive and so glass half full. Not one time did I say to Will, wow, this sucks. I didn't have to do that. Not one time. I say it a lot now. They have it hard. Society is hammering our kids. Society is hammering us. We all have it harder than our predecessors did when they were our age. It's a sign of this crazy world that we live in. And the big one, that's the number one source of stress in high school kids that I just met yesterday was, where am I going to go to school and am I going to get in? Mom, Dad, they might not. There's not enough spots. They're just not. I can give you 100,000 examples of kids who didn't get into the school they wanted to get to, not because they were unworthy, because there's not enough spots. The world has gotten smaller. The world has gotten more international. The world has gotten more competitive. There are not enough spots. I'm down in Atlanta. Getting into the University of Georgia is like trying to get into Harvard. Because if you have a 3.5 grade point average and you get into the University of Georgia, you don't pay. You go for free. So everybody tries to get into University of Georgia. It's the Hope Scholarship, funded by the lottery. So guess what? It's impossible to get in Georgia. There's quotas. I have hundreds of kids at Northview High School where my kids went who never ever got a B, never took anything but tag or high ability classes, and didn't get into Georgia but got into Ivy League. Quotas, not enough spots. Northwestern would laugh at my resume if I applied to it today. It's fact. I never thought about that. I went to Northwestern. Susie went to Virginia. Those are two really good academic schools. Will, he's 15. We didn't talk about that. But society did. Young man, I'm from the University of Georgia. If you want to get into my school, you better take nothing but high ability classes, and you need to get A's in them. It's not true. But that's what they told him. My son, Tommy, got into the University of Georgia, did not take any AP classes. Not one. And there are kids that did nothing but AP classes that didn't get in. It's a mess. It's hard. It's difficult. And I begged these kids that when April 1st comes around and the rejection letters come, they remember me. And they remember this. It is not the school. Mom, Dad, it's not the school. I interview kids for jobs every year, 10, 15 times a year. People are in my office trying to come work for my company. Not one time have I said, what did you get in AP Lit your sophomore year at New Trier? Oh, a B? That might hurt you. Not one time have I ever asked for anybody's grade point average. I'm looking for their sense of urgency. How did they shake my hand? How did they look me in the eyes? How did they answer the question I asked them that was unanswerable? Did they tell the truth? Did they try to BS me? What kind of a team player are they going to be? What kind of a sense of urgency? Are they going to come in a little bit early? Are they going to stay a little bit late? I can't tell that from a Northwestern degree. I cannot. And I will tell you this, every single boss that I have ever had in my life did not go to a school as good as Northwestern. Fact. But every single boss I have ever had in my life deserved to be my boss. Do you know why? It's not the school. It's you. It's you. They're all good schools, kids. They're all good schools. But this is hard, Mom and Dad. This is hard. They're expensive. They know it. They hear us. And I just once wish I would have said that to Will, but I didn't. And I think about the athletic side of things. I stood on the mound at Fenway Park in a Red Sox uniform. You can't get higher than that in baseball. I would not make New Trier's team grown up today. Because when I was 10, I was a dork, and I wouldn't have made the travel team. But luckily, when I was 10, there was no such thing as a travel team. The world was a little bit more patient, and I could grow, and I could get stronger and bigger, and I didn't have to make a decision about where I was going to go play baseball my sophomore year in high school. Never once did I think of that. And then you go to the social side of things and the cell phones and the social media. When Debbie Feeker dumped me, I was 15, and by the way, she regrets it. But when she dumped me, nobody tweeted it. My Facebook status didn't change like Will's did back in 2010 when his girlfriend broke up with him, and his buddy called him up and said, "Oh, I see that she broke up with you." "What?" "Yeah, it's on Facebook. Her relationship status just went to single." I didn't have to deal with that. We didn't have to deal with that. Our kids wake up every day knowing that if they fumble, everyone they've ever met's going to know about it by dinner. When people used to ask me, what's the difference between the minor leagues and the major leagues? When I gave up a home run in Pawtucket for the minor league Red Sox, all 307 people in the stands booed me. When I gave up a home run in Fenway Park, 40,000 people booed me. It was the ESPN play of the game, and it was every single newspaper in America the next morning. That's our kids' life every day today. I was 25, I'm a professional athlete. These kids are 13. I never once thought of that. Wow, this is hard. I don't have the answer. I don't have the solution. But just once, I wish I would have shown Will that I knew this was really hard, dude. I'm proud of you. I don't have the answer, but maybe together we can try to figure it out. But no, what he got from Dad, isn't this great? Oh, this is so awesome, Will. I want to trade with you. And by doing that, by being so positive and so optimistic, I created this barrier. And it was a culture where it was not okay to not be okay. Because he knew if he told me I'm not doing well or I'm not okay, I would talk him out of it because I'm a good salesman. Debbie Feeker dumped me. It happened, right? It happened a few times in my life. But look at your mom. She's hot. I turned out great. You'll turn out great. You're going to be fine, Will. And I walked out there thinking, I'm going to win that Father of the Year award. Because I was there. Now I wish I would have said, wow, Will, this is a bummer. I'm sorry, dude. You got a buddy you can talk to? I don't know anything about young love. But no, I had to have the answer. Because I'm just like my parents were. And I'm probably just like you guys are. We don't like to see our kids not okay. And just once, I wish I would have given him that moment. Just once. It's a very interesting concept. This world is being so negative, and the stress that these guys have, and a trusted adult knows and shows that they know and they show that they realize it's hard. And I don't have the answer. When Tommy, his brother, when his girlfriend and he were breaking up, he was like a freshman in high school, and he had tears in his eyes, and I wanted to do it. I wanted to talk about Debbie Feeker. I wanted to talk about, look at your mom, she's hot. I wanted to go through that whole routine again. And Susie said, John, stop. I said, you're right. I said, wow, Tom, this sucks. What, can I help? No. I said, maybe talk to a friend. And he goes, I don't know. I said, I'm sorry, Tommy, this is hard. I just know it's hard. And that was it. And I went to bed that night wanting to go back up to his room and tell him he's going to be okay, dude, you're going to be fine. But I didn't. And the next day, I get a text from Tommy. You know what the text said? Dad, I talked to Chandler. Everything's fine. Thank you so much for the talk last night. It sucks. I don't know. Best fathering I ever did. It's interesting, isn't it? We don't have to have all the answers. And just by showing him my lack of knowledge, it made it easier for him to talk to me. And he creates this culture where it's okay to not be okay, and you talk about it. And we started working with kids, and we're talking about, who are your life teammates, and be there for them, because life is hard. And every once in a while, you're going to have friends who say to you, I'm not okay. And they might say it even worse than that. They might say, I'm thinking of taking my life. Or I am taking my life. You act. You acknowledge, you care, and you talk about it. You acknowledge that this is tough. I just went through it. This is hard. I'm with you, dude. This is really hard. You care. You show them the love. You show them the hope. You show them the kindness and maybe the goodness that they can't see that very day. But most importantly, you talk about it. And you tell an adult. You talk about it. Something that Will never did, and he didn't know to. And he didn't live in a culture where it was okay to. And it just kicks me. Because his friends had the ability to deliver hope to him. But they didn't know they needed to do that. So now I'm going to take you on a fun journey at my expense. This is Fenway Park. That's me on the mound. That's Jose Canseco of the Bash Brothers, Oakland A's on second, and Mark McGuire is the batter. This is my third game ever pitching in the big leagues. My first two games I had done really, really well. And so I'm thinking, I'm the man. Not anymore. It's hard to hear. The announcer is Sean McDonough, who just got the announcer of the year this year. And he said, oh my goodness. The ball went over the Green Monster in Fenway Park, the big wall. It went over, look at how skinny he is. I can't even blame steroids. It went over the netting above the Green Monster, which is like 30 feet above the wall. That's, like a mile high. It went over the bars on Lansdowne Street behind Fenway Park, and it landed on the Massachusetts Turnpike. You're looking at the guy who gave up the longest home run in the history of Fenway Park. No, that sucked. There was no bright side of the road to that one. There was nothing that was going to make my day better. Nothing anybody could say was going to make. It was the ESPN play of the game. My own life teammate John Peterson called me up and said, "Trout, how's your neck?" Right? I mean, it was brutal, and I'm thinking, okay, I've worked my whole life, finally made it to Boston. They're going to send me back down to Pawtucket, Rhode Island, which is a long way from Boston. And I remember being so upset. And the next day, I had lunch with Johnny's, one of my very best friends, Paul Tickey, went to Northwestern with us. His brother, Al, was like my own big brother. He was in town for the game. I left him tickets with 3 of his colleagues, and we went to lunch, and Al says to me, "Hey, John, I know you're upset, but is it safe to say that when I was throwing wiffle balls to you in my backyard, you dreamed that someday you would strike somebody out in the big leagues?" I'm like, "What?" He goes, "John, you heard me." I'm like, "Okay, yeah." "John, you did that last night. I was in Fenway Park. I was sitting in the 13th row, right behind the Red Sox dugout, and my little brother's best friend, who I used to throw wiffle balls to, in fact, you might as well be my little brother. You're in a Red Sox uniform. I saw you achieve a lifelong dream. Of all the people I've ever met in my life, I've never met anybody who struck somebody out in the big leagues. You did that last night, John. I was so happy for you." I said to him, "I did?" I was so obsessed with the negative in my life that it took a friend to point something out that I had achieved, that I had dreamed about my whole life. And while I was so focused on the left-hand side of that video, the McGuire bomb, that I completely missed the fact that I got my first big league strikeout that very same night. I should have had that ball. I should have had the Red Sox autograph. I could have given it to my dad. But no, I had to just dwell on the negative and dwell on the problems. And I didn't see that there was something good about that night. And I think this is where the silly analogy I was trying to make to these kids is that this is how life is today. We focus on the negative all the time. And every once in a while, we need a friend to show the good. Be that friend. Be the source of hope. Deliver hope. Dare your friends to hope. And I think that is something that was just so interesting. And that very day, I went back to Fenway Park. I went into the video room, and my pitching coach, Bill Fisher, shows me the picture on the left, and you see the blue dot is where the fastball was that I threw Mark McGuire, right down the middle, belt high. It was my way of saying Merry Christmas, Mark. Enjoy. And he hit it onto the Mass Turnpike. He could have killed somebody. So my pitching coach said, "Troutwine, don't throw the ball down the middle to Mark McGuire." On the right, my teammate, Wes Gardner, said to me, "Trout, what was the pitch you struck out Javier on?" I said, "It was a sinker, 2-seamer." And he goes, "Dude, that's your pitch. Your ball moves like crazy. That's the pitch you need to be throwing more often. That's what you need to be doing." My teacher told me what not to do. My teammate helped me develop a plan. It's very interesting, the power that teammates have because of the understanding that they show. Wes Gardner had been there. He'd understood that. And maybe it was time for me to maybe not just learn from my mistakes, but maybe learn from what it is that got me to the big leagues. And that was my moving fastball. I need to throw that more often. What is it that I do really well, and did I do it today? What is it that I love to do, and can I do it today? And I said to the kids yesterday, same thing. What do you love to do? And if you didn't do it today, that's a problem. Find a way to get it into your world. You want to talk about positive passion? Look what I'm doing right now. You are looking and listening to a guy whose oldest child, the child that made me the greatest thing I could ever be, a dad, took his life in my own house. And here I am 15 years later with a bounce in my step. I'm enjoying this. I'm making you guys laugh. You know why? Because I'm flipping good at it. And I love it. What is it that you love to do, and can you do it more often? And it creates this positive passion. What do you love to do? What's your summer job going to be? If you love to play the piano, play it. Because if you don't, life will get in the way, and it draws you down. If you love to read, read. If you love to sing, sing. If you love to run, run. Don't let life get in the way. Give yourself some me time. Give yourself some Audrey time. Give yourself some Sue time. We deserve it. And it's a source of this positive passion, and it makes you start to rejoice in these little things. And I remember when Will died, my senses were in overload, and I started to pick out all of these little things that were happening in my life. A saying, a hug, a smile, a sunrise, a sunset, a base hit, a sacrifice bunt, a good block, a good pass, all of the things that are necessary to win, but you never read about in the paper. The home runs just don't come around that often. And I look at that coach, and it reminds me of lots of coaches that I had. And they got in my face and they said, John, I just want you to know I'm really proud of you. Let's go to dinner tonight. I had over 200 coaches in my life. I counted them. 7 of those guys get Christmas cards from me. And it's not because the other 193 were bad coaches, but those 7 motivated me. They inspired me. They wanted me to, I wanted to be like them. I wanted to make them proud of me. And they always gave me that face. They did give me that face. They got right in my face and they got all over me. But they also gave me that same face when I did something well. Troutwine, you finally boxed out. You took it to the hoop like work time. Great job. Keep it going. You good? Attaboy. That's the coach. That's the teacher. That's the youth group minister that came back and visited my freshman year at Thanksgiving. That's the coach that motivated me and inspired me. And by getting pumped up when I did do something well and gave me that crazy positive passion face, those are the guys I'd run through the wall with. When I talk to teachers, I ask them, how many of your students are going to come visit you their freshman year in college during their Thanksgiving break? It's a really interesting question. These guys, these teachers and these coaches, they have the opportunity to truly be the source of hope in the kids' lives. Because these kids that they're teaching are going through something that is unlike anything they had to go through when they were that age. And it's just so important. Maybe it's time, rather than keep pointing out death by 1,000 cuts, we point out life by 1,000 smiles. And when this happens, it gives you this ability to take a break every once in a while. We have a where there's a will, there's a way 5K every year. It's happening this Saturday in 30-degree Atlanta. We have already raised like $150,000 on this one event. We've raised over $3 million in this foundation, really from this event. Created by high school kids, implemented by high school kids. About 40 high school kids are going to meet me at 7 a.m. on Saturday morning to set this thing up. But it's their event. It was their idea, and they love it. And we give these shirts, long sleeve, beautiful, comfort-colored T-shirts. And a couple years ago, the front of the shirt just said, "The will to live," and on the back was a semicolon. And everybody was like, "What's going on with a semicolon? That's kind of weird." I said, "Think about it." And I had gotten the idea from a group called the Semicolon Project. I said, sometimes, guys, the sentence doesn't need to end. It just needs to pause. We breathe a little bit. Maybe we pray. We continue. We pause. We go where the love is. We continue. We pause. We give ourselves some me time. We continue. I wish Will would have seen or heard somebody say something like that to him. The power of that pause, and what it says underneath it is that it says pause, breathe, continue, right? You see it in basketball all the time. Guys on a free throw, and then they shoot. Pitchers on the mound, right? You breathe, get yourself ready. But you could also pray, you can sing, you can write, you can talk, you can call a friend, you can remember that love is what heals, and so you go where the love is. And I think that's been so interesting. And it was by far the most popular shirt that we ever had. And people started like drawing semicolons on their wrist to remind them that it's okay to pause. The sentence doesn't need to end. John and Mitch and I have a friend from Northwestern. His name's Jeff Marks. And Jeff Marks wrote a wonderful book He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning author. He wrote a book called The Season of Life. It's a fabulous book. Great, great read. And after Will died, about a month later, my business, I had to go to New Orleans for a trade show. And Marksy lives in Baton Rouge, so he met me there. And I was telling him about, we just started this foundation, and he knew I was really hurting. And he said something to me. He said, 1090, Charles. He said, I met this minister, Charles Swindoll, and Charles has this wonderful quote that says, 10% of life is what happens to you, and 90% is how you react to it, how you choose to react to it. And I remember thinking, wow, I love that, Jeff. And I was thinking, I'm going to be the 90. I'm going to be the 90. I'm going to be that glass half full 90. He said, Charles, don't forget the 10. Don't forget the 10. It's okay to not be okay. I really needed to hear that. It's a slightly different twist than maybe what Charles Swindoll was saying. But I needed to give myself the 10 because it is okay to not be okay. And I remember saying, I'm going to go where the love is and love heals. And I was getting these kids to say, love you, man. And I was getting them to not be afraid to voice their love. Because if they can voice their love, maybe they'll voice the fact that maybe I'm not okay. And I remember thinking, okay, Will wore number 13. And when he died, they had all of this Remember 13 signs all over the town. And they said, remember 13 and love each other. And we always had this love you man mantra. And I just remember thinking, this is so great. And every time I gave one of these speeches, I was just so motivated. And the will to live part of my life was so much better than my normal part of my life, my working part of my life, and I couldn't understand it. And I had to give a speech to the Fellowship of Christian Athlete Coaches in Atlanta. There were like 250 of them. And these guys, it was a very religious event, and I was going to be the last of the speakers, and the first 4 speakers I knew were going to be very, very strong students of the Bible, and they were going to quote this scripture like crazy. And like all I could go was, and there were in the city of David, keeping watch over their flocks by night, was Linus in the Charlie Brown special, right? And my faith is stronger now than it has ever been, and I've always had a very, very strong faith, but I am not a student of the Bible, and I really don't quote scripture like that. And I remember thinking, okay, I need to play the part here. And I kept thinking, I tell kids to love each other all the time. And I know there's a part where Jesus just says, my one commandment, just love each other. I didn't know where it was. So I did what any really good Christian would do. I Googled it, and I found it. And not only did I find it, but it's John, my name, and it's 13, Will's number. And it's the one commandment. And it's from the Last Supper. I mean, Jesus knew this was it. He's going to get taken in a couple hours, and he has his last opportunity with his 12 disciples, these 12 people that meant the world to him, that he loved and tutored and mentored for the past 3 years. And he had one more thing to say to them. He didn't say, I want you to work really hard. I want you to be the first in and the last out. No. He just said, just love each other. And I remember thinking, wow. This was maybe 5 or 6 years into the foundation. I remember thinking, I have spent the last 5, 6 years preaching the Bible and preaching the gospel, and I didn't even know it. And I realized maybe that's why I'm feeling good about this. I had this feeling about it. I just was like, I was really blown away. And I remember showing it to my son, Tommy. He goes, Dad, that's a will to live. I'm like, maybe it's the other way around. Oh yeah. It's not often what they say, it's what I hear. The gospel is everywhere. I didn't even know I was preaching the gospel. But with every love you man, every remember 13 and love each other, I was. And I remember starting to think about, I'm a big Beatles fan, and I thought, gosh, Paul McCartney and John Lennon did not have a Bible open when they read or wrote All You Need Is Love. But it doesn't matter. It's what I hear. And I told these kids last night, you don't have to be Tim Tebow. Just recognize the love and the hope and the peace and the joy that's in the gospel and it's in the word. And you can find it in anything. And it made me think about my life before the foundation and before all of this happened. I would go to church every Sunday and I would receive. And it was nice. There'd be a sermon I'd receive. There'd be readings I would receive. There was the words of the hymnals I would receive. There was the fellowship of the people in church I would receive. And then church would end and I'd go home and life would get in the way. I'd come back next Sunday and I would receive. And it was nice. And then I start this foundation and I find myself going out. And I realize that maybe the reason I'm feeling so good is that I'm actually giving, and it's so much more than nice. And it was a very interesting thing, and when I go to church now, I'm looking for things that I can take with me and spread as I go out. And I said to these kids, it's been the source of so much happiness for me, and it's increased my will to live because it's like I'm doing something that's good tonight. It makes me feel better. So I'm going to keep doing it, if you guys don't mind. And it's powerful. And this concept that, where was God when Will died? Well, first of all, he caught him. And second of all, he was in the eyes and the expressions and the hugs and the love of every one of my friends. And every one of my kids' friends, and every one of my neighbors. And it was like these guys, they dared me to hope. They gave me reason to hope. And I've been in sales and marketing a long time, and there's books out there called like Hope is Not a Strategy. And I've had bosses say, I'm tired of it. Oh, do you hope you're going to get the order, John? I was like, I'll tell you right now, I won't get the order without hope. Hope might not be a strategy, but it is a necessity. And it makes me work harder. It makes me get up earlier. It makes me do the things that I might not do because I have hope. And the hope came from my friends, and the hope came from the word, and the hope came from the love that was just showered upon me and my wife and my kids. And it was so inspirational. And it was little bits of hope. It was John and Julie taking us to dinner in Atlanta a couple months later. And they were talking about the foundation, maybe some ideas what we could do, and they were giving me hope. People who I trusted, people who I loved, life teammates of mine. And it was so powerful. And then I go to Christmas Eve service just this past December. The 4:30 Christmas Eve service, right? You're gonna have the Christmas story. You're gonna sing "Hark the Herald" and a couple others, and then you're gonna light the candle and sing "Silent Night." And everybody goes home and opens their gifts, like I've been doing for 44 years. I just lied. 62 years. But this one was different. We have a new minister and a wonderful lady, and she starts talking about the Advent calendar. She's talking about looking for hope, peace, joy, and love, what each candle represents. And she says something. She goes, hope is where innovation and courage come together. I was like, whoa. And I spent so much of my time talking to kids about delivering hope and being there for hope. And then she said to the congregation, so this Christmas, let's dare to hope. I was like, that's it. That's our mantra for 2026. We're going to dare to hope. We're going to be the source of hope. We're going to give each other hope by loving each other. And it was very, very powerful. Where innovation and courage meet. I'm still baffled by that one. But this is what happens when your friends come to your rescue. God's greatest gift to me, in my opinion, was his son. And his second greatest gift were the friends in my life. The relationships in my life. And I hope that they someday define me. And that's the challenge I have for all of us here. We have the ability to deliver hope to each other. As we come towards the end here, guys, I didn't show this one to the kids last night. but I told them I was going to be talking to the parents. And one of the things I would say to you guys, dinner table conversations are tough. And maybe the first thing, and I actually did it today, and John caught me, probably the worst thing you could say to your kids when they come home from school, especially high school, is, "How's your day?" Their day sucked. They were in high school. They don't want to talk about that. Find something else. I've actually had parents say to me, their daughter said to me, the most stressful part of their day is when you ask me, "How was my day?" "How's practice?" "What did the coach say?" "How'd you do that test?" "What did the teacher say?" That's what I get. If you were going to get married, here's a good one. I did this yesterday. We had a row of 15 high school girls. And I said, "All right, ladies, this Saturday you're getting married. This Saturday you are all getting married." And they all got nervous and they laughed and they rolled their eyes. And I said, "I want you to think about who's going to be your bridesmaids." And then I said, "Do they know?" Wouldn't that be a great thing to tell them? And then I went over to the guys, these big, strong guys. I said, "You're all getting married. You guys are getting married this Saturday, brother. Who are your groomsmen? You need 6 of them. Think about it. I'll come back." And then I said, now that you've thought about it, do they know? And what would they think if you told them? "Dude, if I was getting married this weekend, you would so be in my wedding. I love you." You know what I just did? I just said, "I'm here. Always know that." The power we have to deliver hope in a way like that is really powerful. So next time you're having dinner, ask your kids who would be in a wedding party. You'll get an answer. You'll get a conversation. I remember doing it with my kids, and the first thing Tommy said, "Not Michael." And Michael said, "I don't want to be in your wedding." I said, "At least they're talking." Do your kids know who was in your wedding? Do your kids know about your life teammates? Do they know the nicknames of your buddies and where they got those nicknames? Do they know your day? Do they know your dream? I'll tell you what, I remember I told the story last night. I told my kids I had to fire somebody yesterday. "What? What's he going to do? What did you do? What do you mean?" They wanted to hear about it. And we talked. And it was so much better than, "How'd you do on the test?" It's interesting. And I challenge the kids to challenge you to have those kind of conversations. Ask them who are their life teammates. Ask them who's in their wedding party. And now, guys, I have opened up a door. Use me. Use Will. Use this speech. Ask them, what resonated most with you about the speech you heard last night? They'll answer. And then talk about it. We need to have this conversation. Talk about it. If you do that, you're also sending them the message that you know that this is hard. And the relationship improves a little bit. I don't have solutions here. I'm trying to make you more aware. And when you show them you are aware, that relationship grows, and that's so important. We all have people in our lives that feel that they're on a team of one. We all have a story. We all could use this culture where it's okay to not be okay. Dare to hope. Be the source of love. When you're doing great, be the source of love. And when you're struggling, go where the love is. It's love that heals. So now, the same thing I did with the kids last night. I want everybody in this room to think about the life teammates in your life and turn to the person next to you and say, "I love you, man."
I love you, man.
Love you, man. All right, stop. Happens every time. I just asked you to turn to the person next to you and say, "Love you." You guys are hugging each other. And there's this big wave of energy that permeates through this building, and it's a good thing. And I think what I have learned, and I told the kids this, I said, I've been a good guy my whole life, but I always thought that the benefactor of the "I love you" transaction was the receiver. Now I know that's not true. It's the giver. Drop a love you man on somebody tomorrow. Be the source. You'll feel better. I love you guys, and I wish you guys all the best, and God bless all of us here, and go dare to hope as you move into 2026. And thank you all very much. Oh, okay. So we had a couple questions, I think, and obviously, just so you know, the foundation's website does have a contact us, and if you do have questions or comments, contact us goes directly to me and only me. So just know that, and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. Okay, this is a good one. How can I raise the whole topic with my teenager of suicide? Might I put an idea in his head? So it's already in all their heads. The experts will tell you, talk about it. That is a myth that you would put the idea in their heads. It's everywhere today. Talk about it, and when you do talk about it, you are sending them the message that you understand that life is hard. Having said that, it's very difficult to do. And that's why that last slide said, use me. Use me as a way to talk about it. Gosh, Mr. Troutwine seemed like he was a good guy and he had a good family and lost his son. What do you guys think about that? Do you have friends that might be struggling? Do you ever feel that way? I mean, there's ways to open up that door to get people to talk about it. It's a really interesting one, but the experts will tell you you need to talk about it. Don't shy away from that. What else you got?
Two more.
Okay.
Two more. One's a really important, deep one.
Oh boy. Okay. I know exactly who wrote this question. John, thank you for being here. This has been an amazing talk. Number one, did you get pulled after the McGuire home run? And did anyone find the ball on the Massachusetts Turnpike? You're not fooling anybody. It was you. The answer is yes, I did get pulled, and I don't know if they ever found the ball. It may not have come down. So it's that. But if you ever drive on the Mass Turnpike past Fenway Park, I mean, it's right there. It's a true story. Oh, there is one. Okay, sorry. Okay, one of the signs of suicide is not talking about the future plans, but Will did. So what signs do you think are missed or didn't recognize for Will or his friends? Yeah, so great question. The signs of suicide are exactly what you would think they would be. And the books will tell you, and even in my book, there's a chapter that talks about it. It will be becoming more of a recluse, doing less of the things that he or she loves to do, being quieter, hanging out with a different group of friends, being more irritable, not sleeping well, and others that just very typical that you would think of somebody that is struggling. Will didn't have any of those signs. Because remember I told you it was also often maskable. And I later on learned from a young lady story. I'm not going to tell the story because it's in the last chapter of the book, who told me that, no, those of us who have made the decision don't want you to know, don't want you to feel bad. We don't want to bring you down. And it's so difficult. But I will tell you the one thing that the one sign that we did miss was he wasn't sleeping very well. And we were like, oh, okay, well, put your screens away. Less time on the screen. Or maybe we'll give you some melatonin or something. But we didn't really take it seriously, but we didn't know to, because sometimes I don't sleep very well. But what happens when you're not sleeping very well and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, sunlight is a very long way away. And it's interesting, one of the statistics of that's called the devil's hours. hope is a long way away, as opposed to not being able to sleep at 5:30 when you're starting to see the sunrise. And so that's one where Susie and I wish we would have spent a little bit more time on. Sleeping is very, very important. And it's also extremely important when you're grieving. And you told me about your friends. And the sleeping is very, very important. Your friend who lost their son. And the lack of sleep can really be devastating. So that's something I always just pay attention to. One other thing, I just bring this up, is that, we didn't know of anything, but Will had a backpack, and in the backpack he had a folder where he talked about suicide. We didn't know. We never checked. We never looked. And I'm not advising you. I'm not giving you a recommendation whether you should do that or shouldn't do that. But we didn't, and I kind of wish we did. So it's a very difficult thing. Mental illness is a very difficult thing. It's unlike anything else. I remember when Robin Williams passed away, I got interviewed. It was a Will to Live day at a Gwinnett Braves, a minor league baseball game, and the guy said, "Can you imagine Robin Williams? He had it everything. What a selfish, lack of courage thing to do." And I looked at him. I said, "Yeah, I know. It's like George Harrison. He died of cancer. He had everything. What a lack of courage thing to do." And he looked at me like, I said, "Dude, it's an illness. It is a physical deformity in the brain. It is not a choice. It is not a character flaw. It is an illness. And it's unlike any other illness. And until we start treating it like an illness, the stigma will never go away." I have depression, and I love that about me. I go to therapy, and I love that about me. When the world can start saying that, it's going to be a better place. But it's tough. It's a very difficult stigma that we're in today. It's really hard. And I don't have the solution, but I am so much more aware. And I think if I can make you guys more aware, you'll think it through a little bit more, and the conversations become a little different and a little better and a little bit more open. And this culture of it's okay to not be okay takes place. Because we're all a mess, right? We are all a mess. At every point, all of us at different points in our lives are not okay. Jules, how'd I do?
I'm Julie Peterson, and I, along with a bunch of the other wonderful people in this room, are on the Adult Ed and Public Affairs Committee, which, in concert with Spider and his team, and Tria and Ellen, Allison Toby Smart, thank you, Sue, put together tonight. I don't have any words. How can you possibly follow that up, except that we'd love to have you for coffee and a cookie and a chance to meet John. We've got some of his books in the corner. If you'd like to do a free will offering and have one of his books, that's great. We also have some professionals in the audience who will be milling around with name tags if you need to talk to somebody or want to learn a little bit more. Thank you for making us better people. You're wonderful. Love you. Thank you so much.
If anyone has questionnaires, please pass them to Allison Toby Smart people as you exit. Thank you.